Hello, everyone. This is N, Community Lead at Livepeer Foundation. Welcome to our weekly water cooler where we talk about everything going on in the community and in the broader ecosystem. Just to start with some network updates, we saw a 20.4% increase on the fees paid on network to 15,967. Additionally, we have a participation rate of 50.9%. So, again, thank you to delegators and orchestrators for that. And for just a little history lesson, the last time we had a participation this high was in late 2022 of December. So, you know, seeing a lot more activation there, which is really, really good to see. And of course, that means the inflation rate is ticking down. We are approaching the last time we were under over 50%. We're approaching that low. So keep it up, keep delegating, and we will move into the topics for today. So we have first up Define with some embody updates. Define, take it away.
Hey guys, during the previous week, we will be working in setting up the foundation for productization. And to do that, we did tests with the orchestrators and we had to revamp the incentives program and assess it. I'm posting both the URLs here right now for reference in this chat. So first one is the repository. We did all the tests and we confirmed that the orchestrator can enter the system, and start receiving workloads. And this was confirmed also today. There are already orchestrators who are able to receive workloads. We have started automated tests to see if your avatar is active and you can receive JSON plans in your script's endpoint. And to do that, you only need to follow the Unreal VTuber repository. The documentation was reworked, so it should be very easy to do. But if you have any issue, just send me a message and I will edit it. The second URL that you are looking uh, is the full financial retrospective of the incentives program. So a few information for people who are not familiar with the incentives program. The incentives program started when the time that we were also members of the Agent SP. The Agent SP did a proposal for inference credits. Those inference credits at the time was assumed to go to the ELISA pipeline. This pipeline wasn't very successful, so it wasn't maintained. We found out that the pursue in real-time avatars is much more meaningful to continue develop and maintain. So I asked the Agent SP team to create a program where we can create those pipelines, and we agreed on a 108 per orchestrator per week, which was given from the Agent SP treasury every week in the gateway wallet. And so this is all documented in the retrospective financial retrospective URL that you find. We have all the embody of financial movements and all the accounting for all the transactions that they were done in all the phases of the program. So from the Agent SP, when we separated and we became Embodied SP, the Embody project, we took an amount of LPT which was 300,000. Sorry, 3,330 LPT, and that amount of LPT was used for the incentives. And we had three phases. The first phase was uh, the embodied orchestrator just doing workloads to validate that the bring your own container pipeline is successful and we can deploy the pipeline. All of those um, all of those incentives were returned to the incentives wallet for Spencer and more and a bit more. The second phase we started with orchestrators to um, to deploy the pipelines and to pay them for work. And the third with bring your container. And the third phase we basically change temporarily so that you don't have bring your container, but you have a centralized system because there was also a gas issue in the system and there wasn't too much time for bring your container development. Of course, in that phase, we made sure that only top 100 Livepeer orchestrators able to uh, were able to access. And this this program had a lot of successes, but it was also had some mistakes. And we will present the full retrospective and how it goes forward on the far side. But just to reiterate here very shortly, we found out that 24/7 payments, like to have the compute ready to be used for blitz scaling and just to make sure that it is running and to get those metrics, it doesn't work. The phase two, phase three were in a big part over incentivized, and this is not a competitive business model. So all of that was reworked. Uh, you you saw that post about the first rework the weekend the orchestrator chat. I can forward also later here. So we will continue with only pay per pay actual workloads, useful only workloads that they use the avatars, and the avatars are not idle, and we're ready to distribute those workloads. These all are all the news that I have. If anyone wants to join and has issues, let me know. Or if you have any question. Uh, yeah, that's it, guys. I hope you like the program.
Thank you, Define. And Speedy Bird, can you hear me? Or is it just Define you cannot hear? All right, well, Ben, are you able to mute now?
I can, yeah. Can
Oh,
you
there
hear
we go.
me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I think it might be happening to a few people. We had Andrew join as well to be part of this conversation, and he's saying he can't hear anything now. So not
Hmm.
sure how, yeah, wide that issue is, but persevere. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Ben. I'm part of the foundation team. I'm also part of the Transformation SPE and the Capital Markets Advisory Board. One of the recommendations from the advisory board was to try to get inflation trending in the right direction. So we included that as part of our Transformation SPE proposal. And are now just trying to pick up the conversation basically where it was left from Doug's previous pre-proposal back, I think, in June of this year. In the post that I made on the forum, I sort of tried to give a little bit of a TLDR of where I thought the discussion was at. It seemed very much like everyone was sort of finding consensus around taking some action, and that utilizing the existing parameters was a way that action could be taken a little bit more rapidly. There was discussion around sort of like a ceiling and a floor, but that involves a little bit more development work and probably pushes out the time horizon of working on things a little bit further. So if we use the existing parameters, conceivably we could put forward a LIP and an improvement proposal and take action relatively quickly. So we've sort of been exploring that. And then I think the sticking point was really, what parameter would we use and what value would that be? And I tried to surmise that as saying, I think people wanted us to do that in like a principled, risk-aware way, rather than sort of choosing some arbitrary numbers around what that would look like. So that sort of got picked up and reinforced at the Livepeer Summit. Doug and the team from Pixelfield put forward a hackathon project, which basically reinforced those two things. A bit of modeling, which showed a relatively sort of reasonable time horizon of, say, 12 months plus, to really start taking significant action on that. And then a survey, which I think reinforced that, people sort of want us to take some action, but perhaps aren't entirely sure, what's the best way and how to manage risks around that. So what we're trying to do with this conversation is to give everybody a chance to put their voice forward, both in terms of how they feel from a sentiment perspective about taking action, what they hope to achieve, I guess basically what the goals might be from moving forward on something with inflation. And then trying to also, I guess, get from people a little bit of an understanding around the concerns and risks that perhaps they would have, whether that's, understanding, the time horizon for change, understanding a little bit more around their personal circumstances as orchestrators or validators, or delegators, I should say. Really just trying to get as much input as possible so that we can frame that and present back to people, I guess, some scenarios for action that they could potentially take. Now, Andrew has put a survey together, so it might be a good time to bring him in. If he can hear us, though, which I guess is the big question. I don't see him back.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't see an answer in the audience.
Okay, I guess we skip that part then. So I guess the main thing I wanted to share then really is that, we just see ourselves as facilitators of the community discussion around this. There's no set agenda around what sort of action we want the ecosystem to take, other than reflecting back, I think, the consensus that exists today that we should start taking some action. And what we're trying to do, like I said earlier, some understanding of the sentiment and some of the scenarios from a risk perspective around parameter changes, so that the conversation continue on. The time horizon to do that is over the next couple of weeks. So we've got this survey open. We've been speaking to people through the calendar invite. If you want to chat to me or Andrew, we're very happy to jump on a call with you and talk more about that. But probably a couple of weeks from today, the intention is that we come back, share what people have shared with us, share a model so that people can see what type of parameter changes might be suitable for taking some action, and try and invigorate the discussion from there into a specific proposal, if there's sort of consensus that that's a good step for us to take. So I guess the call to action is to fill out the survey. If that feels right to you, jump on a call if you're comfortable to do that. But now would be a really great time to share, any thoughts that you've got around the state of inflation and I guess the goals that you want to see it pursuing on behalf of the ecosystem, so we can include that in our thinking as we go forward. A little bit thrown not having Andrew here, so it might be a bit rambling, but and just happy to open it up to discussion, answer any questions, or
Awesome.
hear from others in the.
Yeah, I definitely encourage, especially for this conversation, folks to request up, or message in chat, as this is pretty important that we get where people's heads are at here. Like Ben had mentioned, the process is really centering. Speedy Bird, huzzah! But as Ben mentioned, this is about kind of how we want to move forward as a community, and see more favorable things on the network side. So anyway, I can bring people up if they would like, or drop in chat, if you have opinions or thoughts. Ben, is there anything specific you're looking for people to speak on, or just more general sentiments?
Yeah, I mean, I think the consensus so far is that we need to take some action. People want to understand, the impact or the risks of taking any particular action, and probably understand what the future path would look like, both in terms of time and in terms of reviewing and continuing to analyze the situation in inflation. This isn't really a one and done thing. So yeah, I guess sentiment around those, or I guess any alternative views, right? So far, I think a number of people have spoken up and said that they are behind some sort of inflation change. If you're not, we would very much love to hear from you and understand that sentiment and where it comes from, and why you think that a little bit more. But yeah, I don't think there's anything too big or small to discuss around this. We want to reflect back, like I said, the best view of the community's current sentiment on this question, and try and continue to move forward from there into some type of action. So yeah, anything and everything, I think, Anne, is probably the answer to that.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's give folks some time to think. We'll see if there's any sentiments. All right.
Guess not, or
Yeah.
nobody can hear us. It's got to
Well,
be one
no,
of the two.
everyone. I
Yeah.
think people can hear us. No sentiments. No, but
Yeah.
I think that there has been like extensive conversation, in the threads, in the server, as well as on the forum. And then Jason just mentioned, should we continue to worry about inflation? Is there above the 50% threshold, or wait and see how it plays out first? I have my own opinions about that question. But before we get to that, just quickly.
I
Oh, go
can
ahead.
I could sort of maybe I can just jump in quickly, Anne, because it is a very valid question, that one, right? And I guess the way that I would sort of answer that is, I think if you look at the sort of broader market, the inflation level that we have in Livepeer and sort of the yield that comes with that is quite high on a relative basis. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean we have to take action based on that. But it is important for us to ask, why perhaps we are a little bit more of an outlier and around that sort of question than others. So, yeah, I think we should continue to see how things play out. But we can sort of start to take some action and see how things play out from that as well. So, yeah, I think it's important to think about, where we sit and what are the goals of the ecosystem as it relates to inflation, and whether we're still in a bootstrapping phase. All of those sorts of things, I think, are what we're hoping to bring back into the conversation for people to think about. Yeah, I think I could probably park it there for now. There's a lot more we could sort of say on that, but
I mean, no
yeah,
need to
I
park.
think like a good thing for the ecosystem to be thinking about, right, is how we responsibly use the governance structure that we have in place, to be trying to achieve our goals. Sometimes conversations like this can be a little bit harder, right? Particularly in a decentralized setting. It's great that we don't have like command and control, that we've got to work together to move forward on these sorts of things. But yeah, we shouldn't let that governance sort of ossify or create inertia just because the conversations or the questions are a little bit more difficult. So that's all we're trying to do here, right? Is to make sure that people have a chance to speak up, get the information they need, so that whatever comes from that, they can be well informed and consenting towards, trying to help the ecosystem achieve its goals.
Word of the day: ossify. Um, yeah, Jason just mentioned more opening, changing the rate of change rather than the ceilings. And my thoughts here, and something maybe, Ben, I'm not sure if you ever thought of this, but I think maybe presenting the plan with the experts that you're currently working with. Andrew, I think you mentioned was their name. That might be helpful. I think it's easier to kind of chew into something that is solidified than source kind of more general opinions, because we've already discussed a lot of that, and that was in the forum a bit ago. So I'm curious, is that kind of part of the plan there, to come up with a plan and then present it, or does it look a little bit different?
Yeah. I think what we want to do, right, is just make sure we can share back, broad sense of that sentiment, and then some different scenarios for people to chew on, right? I think some of the concerns, right, are like, if we increase the rate of change, or if we change the participation rate, people want to know, what sort of time horizon these changes take effect over, but also what are like some of the risks around that, right? Because obviously we want to take action and not destabilize the whole thing. So we want to come back and share a couple of thoughts around what potential scenarios would be, and help the community sort of start to rally around whichever of those feels like it's got the best chance of fully capturing how people feel about the action that should be taken.
All right, amazing. Well, thank you, Ben. You got some comments in chat as well. Um, so be sure to capture those, and we can move on to our last topic today. Um, and I will definitely have the inflation topic just in the next few weeks. So folks do have more thoughts on inflation, need time to think on it. We can have a little bit of time to have a space for folks to share those thoughts. Right. Last up is Peter on Muxion. When you said it, I was like, wow. I don't know if I can say that again.
We haven't really quite settled because apparently Brad likes to call us Muxians, kind of like
Muxians. Oh,
the what is that, the movie with it? Yeah. Anyways, but Musion is kind of how I centered on it, um, just as a je with the X. Oh, minions. Yes, thank you, Jason. So I guess we're Muxians. Because I shared with the team too that I've worked at other companies, like, well, for instance, at Pandora, we were pandas internally. So I guess we can be Muxians, however you want to pronounce it. But I like that this name Musion is kind of a fusion of mux, or to multiplex. If you all are familiar with the computer science term to multiplex, or engineering term, and it just seemed like, since we're kind of going through a bit of reorganization and we need to establish ourselves as a legitimate financial entity, that we needed a name. So we just had a powwow after our planning meeting, for literally an hour and a half or so before Watercooler here. It was like it was 4 minutes after, we're like, oh shit, we're done. Let's go to Watercooler. That we all brainstormed and all threw out all these ideas, and we have consensus quorum that the AISP moving forward will be known as Musion Lab.
ooh,
And that's my update.
amazing.
Thank you, Ann.
Of course. I mean, I have questions. I'm kidding. Yeah. Well, anything else you like? Kind of. I know you said there's like things are shifting. Any change to the now Musion Labs? Any change to purpose, direction, or is that kind of still TBD?
We're absolutely still aligned with our original purpose,
Okay, awesome.
which I like to say is bringing builders onto the Livepeer network, but also really just orchestrating open video pipelines and infrastructure for next-gen streaming networks in this decentralized world that we live in now.
Amazing. All right, John, anything from you on the Musion Labs?
Yeah, I just wanted to give another update from some people were in the fireside last week and got to see the demo and what we're working on here at Musion Labs. I'm always going to pronounce it wrong, probably. But just wanted to give a quick overview of what we're working on. Last week, we had a series of PRs lined up to merge, and around Thursday, the Go Live Peer changes got reverted due to some back and forth with Foundation and Inc. and so forth. So we're just going to go back through and collaborate with them a little closer and complete all the testing that's required to get that PR merged. I think it actually brings up a good discussion point on how we collaborate, what are our coding standards, and how SPs open PRs on code that's being worked on heavily by Inc. or something like that. In this ecosystem, of course, seeing Inc. is sort of like another SP, I think. But on our side, we're developing, as you saw, the ability for ComfyStream to warm pipelines dynamically. When you change workflows out, it stops the old one, starts a new one, and automatically loads VRAM. That's going to allow workers to serve multiple models and multiple pipelines. We've just published ComfyUI Stream Diffusion to the ComfyUI registry. Good work by Prakash, and we're currently drafting the engine build scripts for ComfyStream so that we can run SDXL and Face ID and pretty much everything that AI Runner supports, as well as some new pipelines that we're building, text-based outputs, audio transcription, things like real-time SAM2 or potential pipelines. And we're also looking at like audio. That's one thing I'm interested in is audio denoising and things. So we have a series of PRs. We go to get the Go Live for PR merged. We have one on PyTrickle, which is just to load models and show an overlay when like a pipeline is switching and loading. There's a PR for ComfyStream to pause and resume pumps. And then we have a PR for a nodes config that's going to allow you to build a ComfyStream Docker container with a specific set of nodes. And once we get to that point, which this is a tall order for the next week or two, I think most of this we've already had drafted for the past few weeks and tested. We just got to get the Go Live changes in. We'll be able to go ahead and start rolling this out to orchestrators and building a network around it. One of the other exciting pieces is I think we should have like an SDK. I've drafted like a TypeScript NPM package that can work with the Go Live gateway, so people can kind of build stuff like what we demoed, but without every single bell and whistle in our reference system. Allowing you to kind of build a pipeline that just does audio or just does video, those types of things. So that's all the updates I've got on my side. And also one other thing, we are working with the Inc. to build a Daydream API ComfyUI node. So that's actually going to be a quick spike this week. And that's also going to, similar to that BYOC SDK, serve as a front-end SDK in Python, but more importantly in ComfyUI. Now, this isn't really a ComfyStream workflow or pipeline. This is just using ComfyUI as a front end to start and update streams with the Daydream API, which is essentially the Go Live gateway, right? So this is a good starting point that can benefit both roadmaps as well. So that will be actually our priority this week, and I think probably the next 2 weeks we can get the rest of these ComfyStream pipelines out. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Thanks for the time.
Wow, a lot going on. Any comments from folks on Musion? I also think it sounds so fancy. Milsevirus, you should be able to message now. I'm doing permissions on my phone. Looks like some of them changed. Apologies. Apologies, guys. Server changes. Sometimes you miss a few permission updates. All right. Well, that is our show. any final thoughts or any other topics folks want to chat about?
I think Mike's ready.
Oh. Mike did have a question for you. Okay, cool. Answered in chat. All right. Well, it was good seeing everybody. Thanks for chatting for a bit, and we will see you for Fireside. And of course, I'll be around in the server. Okay. That's it for today. Bye, y'all.